You didn't say that just to embarrass me, did you?
No, no. You always ask me to be straightforward.
Yeah,
and truthful.
you are straightforward. Yeah. All right, well, we're gonna get right into it because usually I have a lot of things to talk about, but I've been missing a lot of stuff because I've been out of the country. First of all, welcome to the show, right? Let me ask you a question. Just before I really get into the questions with you, tell me a little bit about yourself.
About me?
Yeah. I mean, because most people, right, probably watching, don't have no idea where you're from.
All right.
Where you come from, you know what I mean?
Well, grew up in Newark.
Okay.
As you know, we're both Yellow Jackets. My wife Carla and I met when we were in kindergarten. Mm-hmm. We graduated together from Newark High School in 1978. Mm-hmm. Got to know each other especially well when we used to work at the Friendlies down on Elkton Road in Newark. That Friendlies no longer exists. Mm-hmm. We've got 2 kids. Our daughter Molly is 20. She's just finished her sophomore year in college. And our son Michael is 17, and he is finishing up his junior year in high school. Mm-hmm. And my mom still lives in Newark. My dad died a few years ago. Mm-hmm. I have a brother and sister. My brother lives in Florida. My sister lives in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And I've got 7 nieces and nephews. And just feel really fortunate to be in the job.
Were you into politics? Were you in college or anything?
Well, the truth is I did run for, I ran for student government when I was a freshman. And I came in 36th out of 36. I don't know that I've ever told that story before. Yeah. But I just figured, you show up and you run, you should win. And the world doesn't work that way. Mm-hmm. And I remember I played basketball the night before the election, and I wasn't taking it too seriously, and the results showed. So I was really not that political at that time.
Let's get right into it. I think that one of the main issues. I have a few issues, but one of the issues for me are burning is the education. And I guess because I'm sure people are going to be calling, if you could tell me what are some of the things that happen in education that you're very proud of, and some of the things that you're just like frustrated with.
Well, first of all, I think we're making really good progress. A lot of very talented and hardworking teachers and principals, administrators across the state, and of course in the end that's where that's how education happens. It's those magical moments between students and kids. But I'm proud on a number of levels. So first of all, very proud of what we're doing in early childhood education. There's research that says the most effective economic development investment that a state can make is in early childhood education. Beyond the research, if you've ever met a kid who at the age of 5 is already has a deficit in their vocabulary of thousands of words, it's a tragedy. And so we, thanks to support of the General Assembly, we are going to be increasing over the next few years very, very significantly the number of poor kids in Delaware who are enrolled in quality preschools. And that's a game changer for them because you really want these kids to get to kindergarten ready to learn. Right. And I tell you, when you go to some of the quality preschools around, you feel it. We just, about a month ago, we had U.S. Secretary of Education Artie Duncan came to town, and we went over to St. Michael's, and you could just feel. I mean, Helen Riley, who runs St. Michael's, has just done an amazing job. She's been there for like 40 years. Right. And you meet these kids, and I've been there a bunch of times, and you meet these teachers, and you can see the dedication, and you can see just the amazing things taking place there.
Now, do you think that we should have, like, the whole busing thing has been a bus? Do you think it's been a bus?
Well, that started the year after I graduated from Newark, and I think we do have some challenges. I mean, I think the longer that these kids spend, particularly kids in Wilmington, when they have to spend so much time in a bus, particularly getting down to Newark, that's a problem. And I think it's one of the things that we're going to have to look at and address. But at the same time, there are so many great things going on within our K-12 system. We just had the Teacher of the Year, Delaware Teacher of the Year in Dover the other day, and he was talking about the professional development they do now. It's called professional learning communities, where every teacher in the state sits down for 90 minutes a week with 5 of their peers, looking at what the data is telling them about how students are doing. And it's exciting. I sat in with a group of elementary school teachers who were teaching their kids to add fractions with different denominators.
Wow.
And they were looking at it, and the data is telling the students weren't getting it as well as they should have. And so because this is going on all over the state, those teachers could call down to another school down the road serving a similar population of kids that was getting better results and saying, what approach are you following? What worksheets are you using? And Multiply that by thousands, because every teacher in the state's doing this every week. So a lot of really exciting things going on. We've had to raise the bar, raise standards, and sort of what it means to be proficient. Because here's what we've been doing, and this is true throughout the entire country. I think for the last many years, we've been doing the academic equivalent of teaching our kids to play basketball by shooting at an 8-foot basket.
Right.
Now, you get pretty good shooting at an 8-foot basket. The problem is, what happens when you get into a game?
Right.
And you have to play at a regulation basket, which is 10 feet. Well, you're not going to be as good. That's what we've been doing. And the reason I say that, every state's required under federal law to give these state standardized tests.
And I'm glad you said that. Let me change a little. I've been trying to follow this Christina School District stuff, right? And I'm trying to figure out who's right and who's wrong. It seems, I guess it's $2.3 million. That's a lot of freaking money, right? But if the district is saying, okay, we want to help out the masses, we want to spread the money around.
Yeah.
Why would we want to say, why not give it to 80% rather than 12%?
So many school districts, including Christina, and especially Christina.
Who's writing this?
Well, let me just explain
Okay,
the
go ahead.
facts, and we'll let the viewers decide for themselves. Christina, which of course is a district that you and I both graduated
Right.
from. I attended all my years in school, and it was in the Newark School District, now Christina. And what's happened, unfortunately, they've had significant difficulty keeping teachers at the high need schools. If you look at the teachers who were there in 2007, 2008, 1 in 4 was still there in 2011, 2012. They made a commitment to, and it didn't have to be our bonus plan, but they made a commitment to essentially retain the best teachers in the highest need schools through a bonus plan. They decided not to follow through with that. And so this piece of retaining the best teachers in the highest need schools is so important to everything that we're doing. You can't just say, we're not going to do that, because it's like taking all the rungs out of the ladder. And so, our view was that we're just not in a position, and they made a specific commitment. We got the money from the federal government based on that commitment, and so we're just not in a position to say, okay, well, never mind, you can keep the money anyway.
Okay. One more question on education. I tell you another pet peeve of mine, what's frustrating when I see a lot of these, especially minority men, young blacks, around our street corners, who are dropping out of school at alarming rates. 40% in some areas, 50%. Is there any kind of initiative, and I know this has to trouble you too, because you're an educational guy. Is there any kind of initiative that we can do, or anything that your administration have thought about to do that? When I look at it, Governor, we see all this race to the top money.
Right.
And sometimes we see consultants on top of consultants on top of consultants getting money to consult themselves. And it's not getting to the grassroots people, in my opinion, my humble opinion. And that's a long kind of question. What can we do? I guess I'm asking for...
Okay, so first of all, the race to the top money, we were very, very clear from the beginning how it was going to be spent. And because it was only around for 4 years, it was not going to be spent on things that would sort of go on forever. So, but one of the important things that it has done, and I think we're seeing the benefit of it, is helping teachers in the schools sort of really drill into what the data is telling them about student performance. It's helped principals be more effective as instructional leaders. The issue that you're raising, though, I think is one of the issues of the day. I met recently with Professor Payne, Dr. Payne, at the University of Delaware.
Right.
I don't know if you've met him or not. He did the PAR
Thing
research.
over Southbridge,
The participatory action research in Southbridge. Talking to him about this issue. I just went a couple of weeks ago to the grand opening of the Achievement Center, the Hope Commission, the Charles Madden and the Hope Commission folks have put together. I'm reading now a book called The New Jim Crow. I don't know if you've seen it or not. It's a very good book.
I'll read that. It's
very good. It's written by a professor at Ohio State.
Okay.
And there are so many issues coming together, but I do think that we just as a society can't afford to have so many people who are able-bodied, able-minded, not participating as contributing taxpayers.
Right.
So, I think a couple things. And my view is you have to start young, which is why the work that we're doing in early childhood is so incredibly important, because I think it makes it much more likely that a generation from now we're going to have many fewer of these these young men standing on corners. We've got to make sure we're doing a better job, and we're focused on this, and this is, of course, is what the Hope Commission is trying to do with reentry, people coming out of prisons in the first place. And then we've got to do a better job with what we call pre-entry, which is getting people to not go, to not have to go down that path in the first place. And I think that's a combination of education. I think it's a matter of job skills. One of the things that we're really focused on these days in Delaware and across the country is making sure that what's being taught in schools is linked to the skills that are actually valued in the marketplace. It's everybody needs a well-rounded education, but we got to make sure that people are learning stuff that they can actually use when they get into the job market. And so we've got a lot of work going on there, particularly through our Department of Labor, to try to make progress there as well.
I'm glad you brought that up. And folks don't realize that, when I have a private conversation with you, I talk about real issues. A lot of folks, they talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. And when we look at the job situation in Delaware, you have to be frustrated a little bit. I mean, because you're an economic guy, right? Yeah. Seriously, and just the unemployment rate in Delaware is like crazy, and you're trying to fix that, right?
Yeah. Well, look, it's better than the national average, but it's not good enough, and I won't be satisfied until everybody in Delaware who wants to be working is working. Now, think about it this way. You think, and I saw a chart the other day. It was presented at a conference put on by the Department of Labor. 2008, 2009, we were just losing jobs like crazy.
Right.
Not surprising. You think about, in December of 2008, Chrysler closed their plant.
Wow.
In June of 2009, General Motors closed their plant. In November of 2009, Valero closed their refinery. Those three employers were by far the best opportunity for high school graduates in Delaware to enter the middle class for decades.
Right.
On top of that, the banks were getting crushed.
Right.
Because that was, in the heat of the financial crisis, there was nothing going on in banking, so they were losing thousands and thousands of jobs. And layer on top of that, the poultry companies down in southern Delaware have gone through a very difficult time. Now, that being said, we're definitely going in the right direction. There was an article just in the paper the other day as a result of a release from the Department of Labor. The economy is growing. We want it to be growing faster. But you think about it, J.P. Morgan Chase adding 1,200 jobs between last year and this year. Amazon built their new million square foot distribution facility, hundreds and hundreds of jobs. The Bloom Energy Factory is going up in Newark. It'll be finished during the summer. Bank of America is cutting 30,000 jobs around the country. They're adding 500 in Delaware.
That's nice.
Citigroup, Capital One, all adding jobs. But we want more blue-collar jobs. We want more, people say, well, what industry do I like best? That's not how I think about it.
Good.
Because I think, the fact is we need all kinds of jobs. We need the really good jobs, the really high-paying jobs, but we need jobs for people who are just starting out. This Korean company just announced that they were going to be investing $100 million in Sussex County and adding 700 jobs down there. Now, those are jobs probably paying to $10 to $12 an hour. It's not, but for a lot of people right now, they need those $10 to $12 jobs.
What happened? Because I'm sure people who are watching probably was hoping that I asked this question, but I ask questions anyway. Two things.
Yeah.
Fisker.
Fisker. Yeah.
What happened with that deal?
Well, here's the bottom line.
Did we actually lose money to state?
Well, it's not all done yet, but it's not looking encouraging at the moment. So let me sort of explain what happened.
Okay.
There. So when General Motors closed their plant in June of 2009, we reached out to car companies all over the world. We probably talked to just about every car company in the world to see if they had any interest in the General Motors plant, Boxwood Road. And unfortunately, the answer was no. Nobody had any interest. They didn't have any interest because the industry was doing badly, and they also didn't have any interest because that was the last plant on the East Coast. And so what happens if you've only got one plant on the East Coast, it's very expensive to get all the materials and the components here because they're coming from the Midwest or the South or something like that. So we really believed at the time that Fisker was the best opportunity we had to put people back to work at that plant.
It looked promising.
Well, it did look promising. They had a great design. They had guys who had who had been designers for like BMW and Aston Martin and the like. They had a loan from the federal government of $528 million.
Wow.
And they had raised, what it turned out to be, they've raised over $1 billion from private investors. And unfortunately, they were late getting the first car out on the road. The first car got some great reviews, car of the year and the like, but they were late getting it out. And around the time that they were late getting it out is when a company called Solyndra filed for bankruptcy. Solyndra was a company that had already also gotten a federal loan. They were in the solar business. But when they filed for bankruptcy, this became an unbelievable, excuse me, political hot potato. It was mentioned in the presidential debate and everything else. The U.S. Department of Energy said, we're not lending any more money. So Fisker was at a point where they didn't have the money to invest in this plant. And so just recently, the Department of Energy essentially took away just about all their remaining money. So it's the outcome there is uncertain. We talk to the company all the time. They're working hard to figure it out, but it looks tough at the moment.
It looks bad.
Yeah.
So we may lose $20 million.
Well, we're going to keep focused.
Can I get a loan while we're talking like that? $20 million. What about? Okay, tell me about this Kinder Morgan stuff with the Port of Wilmington. Do you think think I don't do homework?
Oh, I know you do homework.
Okay. And also, I should give a lot of kudos to Senator Marshall, regardless if you guys were on different ends of the.
Yeah, I'd say we were on different ends of it. I mean, we talk all the time,
Yeah.
but I mean, here's the bottom line. Our only interest in the port is,
Was it going to eliminate jobs and
No.
like get
No.
rid of the unions?
No,
Sound like a hostile
let-
takeover or something.
Let me explain.
I'm going to let you do that.
Our only interest at the port was to make it viable, as viable as it can be for as long as possible. It's a good port. We're the leading port on the East Coast for like fruit from Chile, and we get clementines from Morocco. All kinds of things go in and out of that port, and it's a really good port. But these ports are expensive to maintain and to keep investing in. The taxpayers have been putting in, on average, $10 million a year, year in, year out. The port loses about $3 million a year. So we decided about a year ago, let's find out if there's an opportunity to bring in somebody other than taxpayer money to invest in the port. So we did. We went out, we solicited interest from all over the world. There was only one bid that was worth considering, and that was from Kinder Morgan. And that's a big company. They're a $100 billion company. They own 180 ports all over the place. This is what they do. And they said that they were interested, and we said, but they said we have to do our due diligence. And they were interested in investing a decent amount of money into the port, a couple $100 million over 50 years. Some of that money going to the port, some of it going to taxpayers. And they said, but before we can be certain that that's what we're going to do, we have to complete all our research. And we said, fine, complete your research. They were in that process, and then this thing got very political. But in the end, they felt like they were put in a box.
Okay.
The union said that they would not negotiate with them unless the General Assembly was in the room. The General Assembly said they wouldn't sign off on a deal unless the union had accepted. They made it clear, they put in writing that they were going to give a 3-year contract to those workers without any wage concessions. I mean, these days, that's a pretty good deal. You don't find a lot of people making that kind of deal. And in the end, they felt they've got, this is a $100 billion company. They're looking at 40 other port deals around the country. They didn't feel wanted. And you know what? Businesses have got to feel wanted. So they backed away. And now I am very concerned about the future of the port. I really am.
Because you still don't have the money for the infrastructure that's
No, I mean,
needed to keep it running.
We're spending some. The General Assembly has supported some over the last couple years, and I've signed that budget, and we just try to allocated some more last week. But the fact is, I mean, these customers have choices, and so I'm concerned. We're working very, very hard. I just met with people from South Africa about doing business at the port. I'm going down, I think this week or maybe within the next couple weeks, to Washington, D.C. to sign an agreement with the folks from Peru because of the port. So we're working very, very hard, but I think there is some uncertainty there.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, if you just joined in, I'm speaking, my guest is the Governor Jack Markell. We're having a candid interview and candid conversation as I always do. Hope you get a chance to join in. Let's talk about politics.
Mm-hmm.
What is your political future?
I've got 3.5 years to go as governor. I love this job.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, well, it's the truth. It has the great advantage of being the truth. I love the job. I feel very blessed to have had this opportunity for 4.5 years now. Very grateful to the people of Delaware for giving me the opportunity. But this is a job that requires 100% of my attention.
But you have been mentioned, and it's no secret, because I watch MSNBC. I watch all this stuff that you're on. You're like a big time national guy.
Oh,
now.
yeah, very.
That you've been mentioned to be Secretary of Education. But I mean, I'm not lying, right? Your name is mentioned.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything. I mean, the fact is, I have a great job. I love this
You've
job.
been mentioned to run for president of the United States.
Yeah.
Right? Am I telling the truth?
I very much hope to vote for a Delawarean for president in 2016. His name happens to be Joe Biden.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, what do you think, right? Because I had Senator Chris Coons on here. And I said to Senator Coons, I speak to a lot of people that I heard that our Attorney General, Beau Biden, may challenge him. I mean, I'm not just talking off the back of my head, right? And he said, well, I don't know that. And I go to the train station, who do I see? Beau Biden. And I said, would you challenge Senator Coons? He said, my options are open. I may run for governor. I may run for senator. What do you think about that? Or you don't get into that?
I don't get into that. You know what? We've got enough. We are seriously. You're focused when it comes. You're focused on the right issues: education, economic development.
But
there are a lot of very talented people in elective office in Delaware, and I feel so fortunate to have the chance to be governor here in Delaware, particularly because we tend to work together, which I think is really important. Tom Carper tells a story. He talks to senators from other states, and he asks them how often they talk to their governors, and they talk to them like once every 6 months, once a year. I talk to Senator Carper several times a week.
Right.
I talk to Senator Coons and Congressman Carney very often as well. And one of the things that I am so appreciative about all three of them, not only do they do a really good job in Washington as senators or congressmen, the thing about all of them is they have never forgotten that the most important issue to them is about putting people in Delaware to work. And so anytime I reach out to them, which I do, to say, will you talk to this CEO about expanding in Delaware? Will you talk to this company about all that Delaware has to offer? All three of them have said yes every single time I've asked. And I think that's incredibly important. And as governor, it's very, very valuable.
Yes, that's good. Let me ask you another political question.
Okay.
Have you been following the stuff? I mean, the city of Wilmington is pretty much the big metropolitan city for the state of Delaware. And when you have a city council and a mayor's office, executive office, and legislative office, does that hurt in the long run with businesses thinking about coming to Wilmington?
I think what businesses are looking for
do they pay attention to that stuff?
I think what businesses are looking for is, do we have access to a great workforce? Do we have good schools? Do we have a good quality of life? Do we have a responsive government? And I think in the end, my experience over a long period of time now has been that when push comes to shove and the issues are important, we all come together.
So do you get into those kind of fights in the middle? I mean, like I read the editorial in the paper, right? They said we need someone to mediate this stuff. Would you?
I've not been asked. I take every call, always be as helpful as I can be, and I understand people have different points of view. And I think, it's always a challenge. I feel very blessed with the relationship I have with the General Assembly in Dover, with the leadership and with the members as well. That's not to say it's easy, because they don't agree with everything that I do. I don't agree with everything that they do. But what we tend to do is we tend to talk it out, and not with all the big media and everything, but just sort of one-on-one, person to person. I ask their advice. I try to listen when they give me their advice. I don't listen every time, but I think in the end it is important that all of us try to figure out a path forward. It's not just working together for the sake of working together. My view, and it's something I always talk about with my cabinet. I've got 16 people in my cabinet. It's like the Secretary of Education and Transportation and Environment and Health and all the different cabinet agencies. And so one thing I said to them back in January of 2009, it was our very first day in office when we had a cabinet meeting. And we've had this conversation over and over again since then. I explained to them, I said, your job is not to defend the agency that you lead. Your job, all of our jobs, is to put the constituents at the center of everything we do. And I think one example of that is the reentry work. Historically, the issue of people coming out of prison
Right.
has been the responsibility of the Department of Correction. Well, 97% of the people in prison are coming out. So the question is, what kind of path are they going to get on when they come out? Well, that should not be the responsibility only of the Department of Correction, because let's say the person's been getting some kind of alcohol or drug treatment in prison. Is that going to continue when they get out?
They need to do more about job training in there too.
Well, that's another thing. So whether it's job training, whether it is housing, whether it's transportation, there are a whole bunch of issues. And so on that issue, what we've done is we put together a group, including our Secretary of Labor, Secretary of Health and Social Services, Director of the State Housing Authority, Economic Development, all of them, Commissioner of Correction, all of them working together to make sure we're thinking about this from the perspective of the people that we serve.
I think, me personally, and I appreciate what you just said, and I think that your ideals are great, but I also believe that, especially some of these folks who are watching over the correction department, that whole institution, need to get some sensitivity training. I mean, that's because I've dealt with a few issues lately, and I said, these folks need some sensitivity training. I mean, some things, for instance, a case, a guy has been working a job. I mean, they violate him for, like, not answering the phone at 6:05 and it's 6:06. I mean, some stupid stuff.
Well, here's what I would urge, and first of all, I think Carl Danberg did a very nice job when he was there.
I like
now
Carl,
a judge.
by the way.
And we have a very good new commissioner, Rob Coop, who was formerly the.
I haven't met him yet.
He's very good, and he was formerly the superintendent of the Delaware State Police. He's a very fine leader. Here's what I would say to people, and this is true across all our agencies. If you see things that you think are not really common sense, we want to know about it.
Good. I'll let you know off the air.
You can.
Seriously, because some stuff is just not common sense.
Yeah, and
it's really not.
And it's the same thing with regulations. I mean, if people see in some of our agencies that we have regulations that don't make any sense, that are stopping people from working, we want to know about it. And I think one of the things that we've tried to do, everybody on my team, is not be defensive. We don't have a monopoly on good ideas.
Good.
If somebody says, you know what, you really ought to think about this differently, we'll listen.
You just signed a bill, civil marriage,
Yeah.
civil union. Matter of fact, I had a group of those folks on before you signed it. Why?
Look, I just think we're on the right side of history with this one. I think everybody's love ought to be respected. I think, to me, it was very important. There are a lot of same-sex couples with children, and it was very important to me to say to these kids that you know that these are your parents, and now you know that the state recognizes that these people are your parents. The fact is, I understand, a lot of people were not happy about this, but I've also not met anybody whose own marriage was threatened by offering the marriage to same-sex couples. And so I know it was a very controversial bill. It didn't pass by a very big margin in either the House or the Senate. And I also think, by the way, that this is a generational thing. I think 10, 15 years from now, we're not going to be having this conversation because the next generation is just so accepting that this is the way it ought to be. So to me, it was the right thing to do. But the other thing is this. I think it was the right thing to do for our economy, and here's why. There are
I never heard of that.
Well, yeah, that's why I want to tell you. There are 3 billion people in the world looking for jobs. There are 1.2 billion jobs available. So we are in a global war for jobs, which really means we're in a global war for talent, because the jobs are going to go where the talent is. Well, you know what? Great companies, entrepreneurs, business leaders, they don't care if the talent is white or black or Hispanic or Asian. They don't care if the talent is male or female, and they don't care if the talent is straight or gay. And when the DuPont company, about a month ago, the DuPont company, 210 years old, maybe 211. It's an icon of great companies in this country and around the world. And so a month ago, when they announced that they were backing marriage equality, I said, boy, you know what? That says something, because they did it for their workers. They want to send a signal. They want their workers, so that they're trying to recruit to Delaware, to know that they're going to find a welcoming environment, no matter what is their sexual orientation.
Gun violence in in urban communities is horrendous.
Yes.
I mean, black on black crime and just Hispanics. I mean, just killing each other. I mean, pull out a gun, just kill somebody. You don't solve the crime. What are we doing? The whole gun bill and all that. Where are we at with that?
Okay.
And what's your thoughts?
All right. So, for me, there were three legs of this stool. One of them was around mental health, and we've proposed a significant increase in mental health services, particularly for middle school students. That's number one. Number two, after the Sandy Hook issue, actually before Sandy Hook, significant initiative underway around school safety. Every school in the state is going to have a high-quality school safety plan, and that work is underway.
Okay.
On the gun piece, 2 years ago, I was probably the only governor in the country to advance any gun legislation.
Good for you.
And we got 3 out of the 4 bills that I proposed done 2 years ago. Probably the biggest one of those was reporting of people with certain mental illness issues to a national database. Before, Delaware didn't report anybody, and now because of that bill, we've reported 18,000 people. Now, since then, in this session, we've passed 2 really important bills. The entire focus here is on how we keep guns out of the hands of people who shouldn't have them.
That's the point.
That's the point. It's not about infringing on the Second Amendment.
Right.
It's not about confiscating anybody's weapons, even though that's what the other side tends to say.
I think I'm gonna have the NRA members on my show.
Go ahead. So, and here are the 2 things we did. Universal background checks, which is probably the single most, that was the single most important thing we could do. So as I signed that bill about a week and a half ago, so there will be not just, historically, if you wanted to buy a gun and you got it from a licensed dealer, they had to do a background check on you. But then if you bought a gun elsewhere, they didn't have to do a background check.
Crazy.
So that's a gaping hole. We have closed that loophole, which I think is really, really important. And then just last week, we also passed a bill that requires the mandatory reporting if your gun is lost or stolen, which will help reduce the issue of the straw purchases. So we think those were two important bills.
Okay. But let's take some phone calls, see what everybody else want to talk about. And while the phone lines go ready to blow up, let me ask you one more quick. I had this question also, and I think I had this conversation with you. I have so many conversations with so many people. One of my pet peeves with the Democratic Party, and I'm a Democrat, right, is that I would like to see more minorities on board of commissions and spots where people are making decisions. I mean, like a lot of times they vote 99% of the time Democratic. Just go there, but you don't see them on board of commissions, high-level cabinet spots. How can we change that mentality?
Look, and I think we're very open, very interested. I don't know if you know the president of our state board of education, Terry Quinn Gray. Do you know Terry?
I think I know the name.
She's tremendous, and she's a scientist at DuPont. Very, very talented. She's there.
Hold for 1 second.
Josh Martin is the head of DFAC, which is one of the premier ones. But we're very interested in.
I like to hit that commission.
Which one?
I don't know. Let's form one. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Good evening, Norman. Good evening, Governor Markell. This is Marla Garris calling.
Hi.
It's good to see you.
Thank you.
I am enjoying what I'm hearing from you. I wanted to say that I just finished a training at the Newcastle County Public Safety Building, the Community Emergency Response Team, CERT. It is a wonderful tool for community members to have in case of there is a natural disaster, flooding, or an emergency. We are better prepared now to help in our communities. And as a director of a child care center, I too feel more confident to have this training underneath my belt. I wanted to say, as a child care director, I feel that it's very important that you and I sit down and have a conversation regarding 2 very different approaches to child care. One is the fantastic job that the Delaware Stars has initiated to better prepare centers to operate. The other is the operation of child care licensed specialists. I've been in this industry for more than 20 years, and it seems to be an imbalance of the approach that more often causes the directors and owners of child care centers to get misdirected and
Marla, this is Marla. Sound like this, Marla. Yeah, sound like you might have to have this conversation with the governor off air because a lot of people are waiting.
And that's what I welcome to
Okay.
do.
Well, probably what we would do, Marla, is have you sit down with one of the people either in my office or in the kids department, because that's a level of detail that they know more about than I do. But I do appreciate what you said about the STARS program, and that's one of the great things when we put this additional money into early childhood. We had a very solid foundation to build on, which is this STARS program.
Okay. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Yeah, Norman. Good show as always.
Thank you.
And this question is for the government. Earlier, y'all was talking about race to the top money.
Yes. Yep.
And in the beginning, when it first started, you were talking about race to the top. I want to ask the governor. My question is, how much money was given to the race to the top?
Right.
And the second question is, what school does the race to the top money go to?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Good question.
So the total amount of money was about $119 million over 4 years.
Your phone is up. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's $119 million over 4 years, and to give you a sense, that's compared to about $1 billion a year that the state spends on education. That's the state government each year, and then of course on top of that, the districts spend money as well. Different districts got different amounts of money depending upon their size and their population. But all of this was set out very, very clearly. In fact, we could not have gotten the money in the first place without presenting a very clear budget, because the money went to fund the budget that we presented.
Okay. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hey, good evening, Governor. Good evening, Norm. This is Pastor D. Norman, thank you for, as usual, presenting the governor in such a candid and honest way, man. It really helps us all. This show is just great. Governor, again, good evening. I want to take you back in time just for a moment, and I'll hang up and listen to your response. It concerns the program some time ago that yourself, the Director of Education, celeb, that we piloted in the Red Clay School District with your help. And we went in and piloted the program with 65 students, and were highly successful. And back then, when I brought it to you, you had pledged that if we were successful, if we were successful, you would help to advocate that we get this program in all the schools we could. I was wondering if the data that Red Clay gathered and everything was ever gotten to you. I know there was some reporting. And number two, if it is at all imminent that we would do exactly what we discussed, that is to expand on the program, particularly in Red Clay and possibly in Christina, as it's needed with the rise in violence.
Thank you.
Hey, Pastor, first of all, thanks for calling. And I remember getting together with you a couple times. I don't remember the details of the program, and I certainly don't remember getting any reports out of Red Clay. Obviously, a lot of these decisions are made at the local district level. I think maybe what we talked about was, and again, I don't remember the specifics, but my guess is what I would have said is, if there are good results coming out, we try to get that information in front of other superintendents so that they could make their own decisions. So I don't remember the specifics, but if you want to, probably the best thing to do is call the office, and we can have you talk to my education policy advisor just to make sure that she's up to speed, and we can take it from there.
Yeah. And I think that one of his concerns, or probably one of his what he was alluding to, and that was one of the questions I had to do, that a lot of these folks do the same thing, get the same results, and still get the same money, or even more. And we have to get some more innovative solutions. And I think that one of the conversations I had with you was even like your money thing, your money school. I thought that was phenomenal.
Yeah, and there really are. I mean, I have to say there are, and as I mentioned before, having gone through all of my years through the what is now the Christina School District, I'm more excited about what's going on in Delaware schools than I've ever been. And because there are a lot of incredible things going on, and you visit these schools, and I would say to people, if it's been a while since you've been in a Delaware school, you should visit again, because there's some really great stuff going on. And it's not always about new programs. It's a lot of it. If you talk to teachers, one of the things that they're most concerned about has to do with what's the working environment in the school. Do they feel like their voice is heard? Do they feel like they're respected? I know they very much most of them like very much this the new professional development, these professional learning communities. But I would also say we recognize that we've got to get better every day. I mean, any district or any state or any school that's satisfied with where they are is making a mistake, because the fact is, other places around the world are making very fast improvements. This is why, we just passed a bill last week to improve what we're doing on educator preparation. Okay. We just passed a bill to improve school choice for families. And so we also recognize it's one thing to pass a bill, but the real magic happens in individual classrooms.
Okay. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hey, Norm. I'd like to ask the governor a question about how do he feel about having guns in school, or anybody, the teacher, the police officer, anyone.
Good question. Thank you.
Well, we do have a lot of a number of schools around the state have the school resource officers, and I think if you're a trained officer and you've gone through the academy and all that, that's one thing, and that's really a decision for the local.
You got to turn your TV down. Go ahead, Governor.
And that's really a decision for local districts and schools to make. Here's my concern, though. I know that there are some people who say that what we ought to do is we just ought to have a lot more guns in schools. There was an incident shortly after Sandy Hook where somebody who was allowed to have a gun in the schools, was in a different state, left their gun. They went to the bathroom.
Hold on for 1 second, Governor. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to hang up on you every time when you call in and your TV's up because we can't hear you. I mean, it's like, hold on, let me see what that says. Please turn down your TV. And we talk about education, right? And it says that, right? You can't hear him, can you? Can you hear him? It's like an echo. Am I being sarcastic?
Well, that's between you and your viewers.
Okay. Well, I'll keep hanging up on him. Somebody get it, but go ahead.
So, but the bottom line, it was somewhere in the Midwest. Somebody who was allowed to have a gun. They were not a police officer. They left the gun in the bathroom, and a kid found it.
Wow.
And so I just think we have to be really cautious about that, frankly.
And that was a good answer, man.
Well, it's true.
Between you and your viewers. You played it off real good, man. You put it back on me. See, that's a politician for you, man. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Norman, hi. Governor Markell, hi.
How you doing?
Hi, good. This is Nancy Willing. I was listening to earlier talking about the Christina School District and the loss of teachers since, I guess you said 2007, Governor. But I always wonder, because that's been that data, that percentage has been put out, the high number, but Christina had named Bancroft as a Tier 1 persistently low-performing school under Superintendent Lyles and then Secretary Lowry. And they chose a 50% reduction in staff, a 50% reduction in teachers. And so things like that, with the amount of schools in Christiana that were struggling, I just wondered if the percentage of teachers lost in that district, if that didn't include deliberate cutting under the turnaround model of the 50% of that one school and other things like that. I'm struggling right now with the idea that race to the top money is going to be stripped from that district because of a choice they're making about how they want to go through. So maybe you could just answer that.
Sure. They basically they made a commitment in terms of how the money was going to be spent. They changed their mind. And so, you can't make a commitment, change your mind, and still get the money. And so that money will now go to other districts. And I think it's unfortunate, but we have local control. And so that district has decided what it's going to do. I mean, we very, very much want that district. It's the biggest district in the state. As I said, it's my alma mater, it's my wife's alma mater. We very much want that, yours too. We very much want the district to be successful. I've been at a number of Christina schools this year. I was at Glasgow. I've been at Glasgow a couple times. I was at McClary. I've been at a few others as well.
I'm laughing, right?
Why?
Because I always went. Did you and John Young ever have a cup of coffee?
No. So we very much hope the district is going to be successful. I'm pleased. I know that at least one, maybe a couple of their schools have decided to start the World Language Immersion Program next year, which is something I'm very excited about. We're opening up over the next couple of years 20 World Language Immersion schools in the state of Delaware. These are schools within schools.
Wow.
Where students spend half their school day learning in a different language. So I know,
That's
for
what's up.
example, John R. Downs, very close to where my mom lives, next year, kindergartners are going to be learning science, social studies, and math in Chinese.
Wow.
Which is very exciting.
I could have used them on my trip to, no Spanish. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
How you doing? I wanted to ask the governor, is there any chance for us to get our unemployment raised up a little bit more in the state? I mean, you know, it ain't been raised in a long time. I know the economy's bad, but it would help out a lot.
Oh, the amount of money. I think that's.
Thank you for the call.
Yeah, I think given the fact that it's called our unemployment trust fund is in a negative balance. You know, it had always been positive, but then when all the jobs were lost in 08 and 09, we went into a negative position, which meant we had to borrow money from the federal government, and so I think it would be unlikely anytime soon that would be raised.
How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hello, Norman and Governor. I have basically three questions. The first question that I have is, what's the position with the governor with Dartford State? Is he trying to privatize that? The second question that I have.
So the first answer is no.
Okay, the second question that I have is, we know that you're a politician and all, we understand that, but do you think it's fair for Dartford State employees to go 5 years without a raise and then give them 1 or 2%?
Well, you know, we would very much like to see state employees make more money. There's no question about it, and the fact is, as you're saying, a lot of state employees have gone over the last few years, not just Dartford State, have gone the last few years doing more with less. We're the first administration. We've gone all the way back to 1974 when Pete DuPont became governor. We're the first administration since then to have fewer employees today than we did at the beginning of our administration.
That might be true, Governor, but when we went to work for you to become governor,
yep.
We had your word when we did a contract. We went and we took a pay hold. Then we got
What do you think you had my word to do? You had my word to be the very best governor I could possibly be, and to try to get us through an unbelievably difficult economy. The fact is there are 30,000 people in Delaware who are looking for jobs right now. Those are 30,000 people who are not paying taxes.
What's your third question?
My third question is, why did the governor take the races from the Dartford State employees? And I'll let the line go because I know other people had things to say.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm not familiar with the last piece. I mean,
Okay.
But let me sort of. I think it's an important issue generally in terms of state employees. There is no question that in my first year, 2009, state employees had to take a 2.5% pay cut.
Right.
The next year that was reinstated, and then since then they've got, I think, 2% and 1% raise. Now I'll tell you that when we cut state employee pay that first year, people told me all of the people said the smartest political thing to do would have been to lay off a couple thousand people, because if I did that, nobody would have had to take a pay cut. So if you do that, you really upset a couple thousand people. Whereas if everybody has to take a pay cut, you upset everybody. But my view at the time, and I think it was the right way of looking at it, none of the people, had we had to lay people off then, none of those people, given how bad the economy was, none of them was going to be able to get a job.
It's been worse.
And certainly not one with benefits.
Yeah.
And so I know it's been a very difficult time. We really appreciate the great work that state employees are doing across the state.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the other thing is they've so much of their work is underappreciated.
How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hello, Nam. How you doing?
Fine.
How you doing, Governor?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Oh, good. I'm a labor, Diggin Thomas William, a labor, local 199.
Mm-hmm.
We need your help bad. And I want to hang up and I want to wait till you respond.
Well,
what you need his help doing? What you need his help doing? Don't hang up. What you need his help doing? Like
jobs.
Some jobs.
Yeah,
man.
jobs.
You know what I'm talking about. The jobs down there. For the labor local 199.
Yes,
you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. In fact, just within the last week, I think it was just this past week, I attended Labor 199, the Laborers International, LIUNA, just built they invested several $1 million in a very nice new training facility. It's incredible. And the international president came to Delaware to celebrate, as well as Ray Persino from New Jersey came down. Bill Carter runs that.
Oh yeah, Billy Carter, good friend. Yeah.
And so what I really appreciate about that work is that they recognize it's all about opportunity and it's all about job skills. And so they're putting their money where their mouth is. And and I think this is really important. I talked earlier about all the people around the world looking for jobs, and 3 billion people looking, only 1.2 billion jobs available. What it comes down to is what kind of skills do people have. And so believe me, we're doing everything that we can, and if people have ideas of additional things we should be doing, we want to hear about that as well.
Okay. Let me give a quick shout out to all the graduates, and I know you were at my alma mater, Delaware State University today.
Yeah.
And I want to first, I give kudos to Dr. Harry Williams, a great guy.
Yes, he is.
And a good friend. And I know my good friend Leonard Potter's son graduated from Delaware State, and Jack Booker's daughter graduated from high school. So I just wanted to take, because I didn't do it at the beginning of the show, give a shout out to all the graduates. And also I wanted to say I was going to attend, if I can, the event that George Wisher's having with Jay Caldwell and those guys. I just want to encourage everyone to go to that. So I didn't get a chance to say that. Usually at the beginning I have a monologue. And what's funny, man? Did you expect this? Because it's Crossfire, man. We Crossfire,
man.
Oh
yeah, I knew.
This is a great show.
I knew what I was getting.
But I appreciate, I always appreciate when people come on the show. You know what I mean? And they answer all the questions, because we answer a lot of questions. I mean, we don't sugarcoat. It's not like we sit in the green room and I give you a printout of questions. We don't do that. And I was talking to Regina Booker. She was like, "Norm, that's what I like about the show, and I think that's what makes this unique." And I appreciate the callers who come and ask intelligent questions. I think we got time for maybe 2 or 3 questions, and then we can move on.
All right.
How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hello?
Yeah, turn your TV down, please.
Hello? Hi, this is Linda. I have a daycare out in Newcastle, and we have just reached the 4-star point.
Congratulations.
And thank you. We joined in July, and we just hit our 4th star, and we just wanted to welcome the governor out to visit the facility, just see what we're doing. We're very proud of what we're doing, and I just think that I agree with the governor when he says that, it starts in the early years. If we can get these children in the early years so that they don't start behind, then I think that helps a lot in later with the dropout rate and things like that.
What's the name of your daycare?
Linda's Angels Child Care Development.
Linda's Angels Child Care Development. We're going to write that down.
Write that down.
And,
see, look, you call Crossfire, and you get a date with the governor.
But hey, really, congratulations. And I think, I mentioned to Norm a few minutes ago, we had this solid foundation to build on, which was the STARS program. And now, as a result of your getting the 4 stars, as I'm sure you know, you're going to get a higher reimbursement rate, and for the purchase of care kits.
Oh my goodness!
So congratulations.
Okay. Hi, welcome to the show. Oh, and let me give my good friend. Oh wow, it's too loud. That is way too loud. I want to give my good friend Butch Ingham a shout out at Bancroft. He does a good job. You ever go down visit down Bancroft?
I've been to Bancroft I haven't been there this year, but I've been to Bancroft a number of times.
Okay, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hello, Norman. Another great show.
Thank you.
Thank you, Governor, for all of your answers and questions.
Thank you.
Responses to questions. I'd like to also thank you for signing the bill for the stolen and unregistered guns. I'd like to think I had just a little input because I sent a resolution down to the General Assembly.
Are you assuming that everybody's listening know who you are?
I did start to introduce myself. I'm Hanifa Shabazz. Sorry.
Hey, Hanifa, how you doing?
Did you know who she was?
Yeah, I thought it was Hanifa. I have not signed that one yet. It's passed. I will be signing it soon. But thank you very much for your advocacy.
Good. I have another question, as you know, also too, Governor, that I did a first and second ordinance for bringing back a ordinance that, in fact, the former Councilman Oliver had tried to get passed regarding the registration of guns. And I know there's a lot of pushback on gun registration, but I just think that there are a lot of our young people are getting guns illegally, and if guns are sold legally, then it must be someone who's buying guns illegally. that are getting the guns into our young people's hands. So registration, using even our motor vehicle process, registering guns, we register everything, televisions, phones, everything. Now, if we register the guns, then we will be able to then find out who actually is putting these guns, illegal guns, into our people's hands.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Thanks, Hanifa.
Hey, look, let me ask you one quick question before you go there, because we only got like 60 seconds.
Right.
How did we get to Urban League more involved, like when you and Tony and you guys were involved?
Well, let me. I want to be clear, and I appreciate Hanifa call, but I think the registration thing is not going to happen in Delaware. There's just not support for it.
So what do you think about Urban League?
And it's not something that I support either.
Urban League. Matter of fact, I was talking to Jim Gilliam Sr. tonight. He said, "Norm, make sure you ask him about Urban League."
Look, I mean, first of all, we all owe great gratitude to Jim Gilliam Sr. For starting the Urban League. As you know, I was chair of it for a while. They do very good work, and I think they do very good work both on the advocacy side as well as on some of the service side. So I think they just, my guess is that, the more support they get from the community, the more work they can continue to do.
Thank you, Governor.
All right.
Man, that was a good show, man.
Thanks.
Now you got to get me on the bike.
Yeah, you need to get on the bike, I think.
Come on, man. No, don't punch me like that. Me and you pretty cool, man. You just took a low blow.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed the show. We have a really nice show coming up again next week. And again, these are the kind of shows we have. I mean, and I appreciate the governor being very candid, ask all the questions. I mean, that's what Crossfire is about. I was talking to a good friend named Richard. We used to call him Earl the Pearl, and Dick Barnett and Willis Reed from Southbridge. He said, "Norm, I watch your show every week." I saw the lady on Clifford Brown Walk. She said, "Norm, you don't look as big on TV, but you said you just gave him the goods." All right, thank you, man.
Thank you.
See you, ladies and gentlemen. Good show.